Welcome to This Works Marketing, where 3 decades of proven experience has launched products, built brands, and generated profits. These are the stories behind the businesses that have been built. Today we're going to talk about how direct-to-consumer businesses might want to rethink their marketing. Hey everybody, my name's Ken Carey. I'm a direct sales expert for the last 30 years, working with big companies, small companies, entrepreneurs, and Fortune 500 brands for about 30 years, and we've generated over $6.5 billion in sales for our clients. I want to talk today about this direct-to-consumer information that I got sent to me just recently. I do a lot of research. We do a lot of research here at Script to Screen M2 Group when it comes to direct-to-consumer, because we're always talking to potential direct-to-consumer businesses that are going to be taking their businesses and creating that direct-to-consumer channel, and the traditional direct-to-consumer business, which are like the Birch boxes and the subscription-based businesses. Those are what we call traditional direct-to-consumer, or anybody who is building a list so they can remarket to that list and serve that customer better, okay? And really the definition of direct-to-consumer, and I learned this, and I think it makes a huge difference to understand this, because I'm going to give you 2 examples of 2 companies that are this. So direct-to-consumer is, yes, you're going directly to the consumer, and your markup as a company. You have your product cost, then you have your markup as a business, and then when it gets to the consumer, you're not paying that markup that retailer is having, and that savings goes to the consumer. When you're doing that, because you're doing business directly with that customer, you have that first tier data that you can remarket to, you can learn more, and there's just so many things you can do. But if you don't have that first tier data and you're selling to another marketer, like an online marketplace like Amazon or a brick and mortar, you don't have access to that data. They are marking up your product, and therefore you're getting less of the profits. And there's a whole other thing to unwrap that we're not going to get into this episode today about the vulnerabilities when it comes to that. So I said I was going to talk about 2 different companies. So I want to talk about Casper, and I want to talk about Away. So Casper is a very successful online mattress company, and what really makes their direct-to-consumer model different than what you're going to do and what you're going to get at a store is that they do a couple of things that are very unique. They give you a 100-night free trial. So after 100 nights, if you don't like it, you can send it back. But when you purchase the product, they're going to send it to you free. And if you don't like it in 100 days, or 100 nights in their case, you're going to send it back, and that's not going to cost you anything. And in addition to that, they're going to give you financing options. So if you think about just those 3 things, that's not typically what you're going to be able to get at a retailer or some other online retailer or a brick and mortar retailer, because A, you're going to be paying the difference of that markup. You're probably not going to get free shipping both ways, and maybe you might have financing, but maybe they're not going to be as good as the financing you can get directly from the customer. Directly from the business. And then, like I said, once they have your name as a happy customer, they're going to continue to make products, and they're going to serve you so you can be a lifetime customer to them, and that's more valuable. Let's talk about Away. Now, Away started, I can't remember the venture capital group that funds this group, but they started with the same venture capital group that funded Warby Parker, funded MeUndies, those types of direct-to-consumer businesses. So within that ecosphere of that portfolio is Away. So Away is a luggage company. They make great quality luggage, and they do their best to try to align their luggage for exactly your needs. So you're not going into this online marketplace, you're going into this store and trying to fit this with that, and will that work here? They're trying to make it super simple for you, and all their products work together. Now, this is a perfect example of, because you're doing business with Away, you're not going to buy this luggage at, and let's just say, Saks Fifth Avenue. There's going to be a markup between what Away makes and what Saks Fifth Avenue makes, and guess who's paying that? You. So they're saving you that markup, they're delivering you a great product, and they're delivering you an experience and products that really fit your needs. They're really trying to customize it, and they're very, very customer centric. Okay, so I can't even remember the last time I went into a store or a big box and somebody actually gave me some personal service on what I really needed. Right? It's over there, or we don't have it, or whatever, or pre-order this. It's never really working towards what I'm looking for. Some places, but not all. They deliver a very high quality product. So Away is making a great product at a fair price without markups, and they're competitive. So not only the good prices, but they're really competitive to some of the higher end products on the marketplace. Now, I'm not sure about their shipping back and forth and all that kind of stuff, but their main point of difference is a great product at a competitive price, and you don't pay the markup, and they're really servicing your needs. So those two companies are two different kinds of direct-to-consumer. I'm just going to call it a little bit different. But the point where we're going to, how you might want to rethink your marketing, where that fits into this, is that there was a study done. I'm not even a study. It was some research done, a report, and the research was done by the Westwood One and Leeds RX. So Westwood One is a large radio conglomerate and podcast conglomerate, and Leeds RX is an attribution company. So these are very credible companies. And what they did was they looked at the top 200 or so direct-to-consumer products and campaigns and businesses. And when they broke down where they're spending their marketing dollars and what those marketing dollars, where they were driving their business, what they found was very, very interesting. A lot of direct-to-consumer companies start on digital, paid, social media, things like that. And I understand why. Some cases it's the dollars you want to spend. You're trying to find out certain things in testing, and you're just getting going. But as we all know, if you're paying attention to media and direct-to-consumer and performance marketing, that world is getting more and more difficult. It's getting more and more expensive to really zero in on those customers. And if you keep hitting the customers, the same people over and over again, eventually it's going to be an attrition on your brand and your product. So what they did was they said, okay, let's look at these companies, see where they're spending their money, and see where the traffic is going. Where is the traffic coming from to their website? Because that's top of the funnel. Get people your website, educate them on your product, your unique selling proposition, all those types of things. Now, once you get them there, you have a chance. That lower funnel, which is a little bit more targeted with social, digital retargeting and those efforts, although they're lower funnel and more targeted, you just keep going after the same people, and it just starts to not work as effectively. And the research said this, that out of the top 20 direct-to-consumer campaigns, I'm going to talk awareness before I'm going to talk drive to the website, because awareness is a big thing, and you have to think about, you have to have that top of line awareness in addition to your selling proposition. But if you don't have any awareness, how are they even going to get into your funnel to even understand your selling proposition? So that's a whole problem within itself. But within the top 20 direct-to-consumer companies, those 20 companies have about 70% awareness, which is not bad, but nowhere close to legacy brands. The next 30 brands had a 24% awareness factor, which is almost like you don't exist. And then on top of that, there was over 150 other direct-to-consumer brands that have less than 10% awareness. And that's literally like you don't exist. So that's a whole nother problem within itself. And a lot of that is because they're at bottom of the funnel. They're doing social, they're doing retargeting, they're doing digital and banner and all those types of things. And you're just not getting to the masses. So the report talks about how these companies are layering, if you layer television and radio on top of your digital and social, you can be a heck of a lot more effective. As a matter of fact, here's some statistics that kind of blew my mind, and I think they will kind of shake your world a little bit too. So they're saying that of these 200 plus brands that were researched, that 17% of the traffic going to their website was being delivered by Google and Facebook. 17%. Now, companies or direct-to-consumer companies that have television and radio on top of those efforts, they were driving 40% of their traffic to their site was coming from television and radio. 40%. I mean, that's significantly different. So you ask yourself, well, why not just do that? Well, there's a lot of reasons. One reason is maybe there's a thought in your mind that radio and television is too expensive, or radio and television is not as effective because you may not think people are paying attention to radio and they're not watching television like we once were. That's true, but not in all cases. As a matter of fact, in this same study, talked about almost 80% of the people that were direct-to-consumer customers were watching television. That broke down a little bit into connected into OTT, but less than 10%. So as those build, there are strategies to get to that consumer, yet that consumer is going to be a little bit younger, a little bit different, and that's a good place to capture them. But when you get into television and when you get into radio on a mass basis, the traffic to your website is significantly higher if you're just doing Google and Facebook and on all the things that happen in those digital spaces. So a couple of the myths are, one I just talked about, companies may not think that their clients are there, or they don't understand TV, they don't understand radio, they don't think their potential customer is there, and or it may be too expensive. And they really just don't understand that whole aspect of media buying in those categories, which is not a reason not to do it. But I don't know why. I think people are researching that or need to be researching that, but in terms of today's economy and probably in the next few years for sure, that's where a majority of traffic is coming from when you layer those two on top of it. Now, let's get to the dollar amount. Now, I understand when people say, well, television, we don't know television, it's too expensive. Well, if you're trying to buy a Super Bowl ad, or you're trying to buy an ad on a very, very popular show, let's just say Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, something like that, yeah, that's really expensive. But you don't have to do that when it comes to direct-to-consumer. Unless you just have oodles of cash you want to burn, you can be very specific about specific markets and demographics, times of day, and that's all in a performance-based media strategy, and I'm not going to get into that today, but those are the types of questions you need to be asking. How do I find out more about a performance-based media strategy? How do I find out about, where's the best radio for my product or service? Is that podcast? Is it mix of the two? Is it a specific person that fits to your demographic that would be perfect to align with your brand? You have to think about all those types of things. It's not just buying a radio station and putting it out there. It's just not done that way anymore. And a lot of it is performance-based. So you need to ask those questions about performance-based media in television and in radio, and start small. You can start small there, but by starting small there and getting so much more site traffic is going to equate to being a heck of a lot more economical than continuing to fish in the same pond and fish in the same place over and over and over and over and over again. Sooner or later, the fish stop biting, or they're not there, or the conditions change every day, which is analogous to an algorithm, changes every day, and you don't know where to go and what to do. Now, obviously, people have figured that out, and there's a lot of smart data people, but it is an ever-changing thing. So my point today is you might want to rethink your direct-to-consumer media strategy, because the data is very, very clear. As a matter of fact, we're going to provide a link to this actual research that was done on MediaPost and talks about what these numbers are and the direct-to-consumer companies that they researched and how it makes such a difference. And then, and I go back to the opening thing, what I talked about when I talk about Away and Casper. So Away is starting to move into television. They're moving into radio, and they're becoming a much more of a player in that business. Casper started out on digital, and now they've gravitated to be a big boy in television and radio, and they are, unequivocally the market share leader when it comes to direct-to-consumer mattresses and sleep products. But they didn't start really becoming that leader until they layered radio and television on top of what they're doing. Now, you have to pay attention to what those companies are doing, because at one time, they were just like you if you're just a startup direct-to-consumer, or you're a business trying to get into direct-to-consumer, and you have to really shift your whole mindset of how you're going to do that. So don't think about direct-to-consumer as being just a Facebook, Google digital strategy, because it's a place to start, but it's not a place to scale. It's not a place to build. You want to layer on top of that. And it's not just me saying it, it's the research, and we're going to have that link for you. So I hope that was helpful for you today, because when I read this, I was a little bit, I wouldn't say stunned, but I was a little bit surprised by these numbers, because we talk to businesses every day that have to that are specifically looking for other ways to create other revenue channels for their business, because they see what the future holds. I've spoken about that many, many times, and I'll continue to speak about it, because it is coming, and that whole change and disruption is happening. You just got to prepare yourself now for what's eventually going to happen in the future. And if you're doing digital and social and layering television and radio onto your direct-to-consumer strategy, you're going to be so much further ahead than the other companies, and so much further ahead that maybe they can never catch up. And for you, that would be good. For them, that would be bad. So I hope this was helpful. Please share this with somebody that who might be informative to. Share the link, like I said, and the information will be tagged to it. And if you have any questions or want us to talk about anything specific about direct-to-consumer or performance-based advertising, we'd love to get those questions and have episodes exactly like that, because we hear it every day. We're launching businesses every day, and we're in so many different pockets of every company's business that we know what's happening. We're on the pulse of what's happening, and we want to share that information with you. So I hope that was helpful, and until next week, we will talk to you soon.